Ars Libri is an everyman's journey, book by book, through Western literature. We read, retell, and reclaim our rich heritage. All right, so Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. We've been waiting to do this for a while. We've been talking about it for a while. How many times have you read the book? Do you know?
Probably just 3 or 4.
3 or 4? I think I've read it 4 times.
Okay.
I don't know how many men can say that.
Yeah.
I don't know how many men would admit that.
True.
The first time I read the book, I remember thinking, this is a chick flick. It's a rom-com. I don't want to read this. And I didn't really understand it. Someone encouraged me to read it again. They said, the saying was, if you really want to understand how a woman thinks, you have to read this book. And I thought, okay, let me try to read it again. So I read it again and I began to perceive all of the little intricacies in human relationships. Mm-hmm. It's a really good study in human character, the book. Very, very, very good. And as you read it more, you start to see that more and more and more. The characters, there's a richness and a depth to all of the characters in this story.
Yeah, one of my favorite techniques that Jane Austen does is characters that you know you're not supposed to take seriously. She has them contradict themselves in the same speech. Like, I'll never do this, or I'll always, like, at the same person, same paragraph.
Mrs. Bennet does that.
All the time.
Mrs. Bennet.
It's great.
Before we get further into talking, we could just talk about this story for a long time. Let's overview the story.
Okay.
And then jump into maybe different scenes, different events, different characters, and walk through the story. This podcast is geared toward people who have read the book, people who haven't read the book, both adults and perhaps young people in school, maybe reading this for the first time. So just keep that in mind as we go. I got to keep that in mind, but also for the listener, that's who this is for. It's for parents at home, children, teachers, whoever wants to use it. So it's kind of instructional and not just a random ambling conversation. So the story essentially was written in the late 1700s, but it wasn't published until like 1813 or something like that. So it took almost 10 or 15 years for Jane Austen to actually publish this. At first it was called First Impressions, and then it turned into Pride and Prejudice. So that gives you some insight into the story as you read it. First Impressions, what happens in the story is a few people have first impressions of each other that are wrong, that are false. And then they have to overcome their stubbornness, their pride, their prejudice in understanding each other.
Lizzie is the one who says that she's a believer in first impressions.
Okay.
So she is the one who owns the title there.
Yeah. So Lizzie is a main character. Basically, there's a family called the Bennets. There's Mr. Bennet, Mrs. Bennet, and then 5 daughters. Jane, Elizabeth, the others are
Mary, Kitty, Lydia.
Mary, Kitty, Lydia. And then there are other families around them. They all live in England in the era of Jane Austen, so the late 1700s, the early 1800s.
I think it said in Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire, okay. So they live in this idyllic, gentry, upper class, aristocratic class of people that don't work for a living. Some of their family members actually do work, but it's seen as odd for that group of people.
Well, it was class distinction. So to be in the class of a gentleman, meant that he did not have a profession.
Right.
And at one point, someone accuses Lizzie of being beneath Darcy, being beneath his sphere. And she says, he is a gentleman. I am a gentleman's daughter. We are equal.
Right. They're all, she's from a gentleman standpoint, and so is he.
Right. And so her uncle, who may have had a profession, was seen, I think he was like a lawyer.
A lawyer.
He was seen as of a lower class.
Because he had a job.
Right.
Right. So it's hard for us to see that today because we're so far into an egalitarian age. Even those people who are more conservative minded, you're still egalitarian liberals compared to these people who actually lived in a hierarchical society with class.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that her uncle was probably, or could have been, more wealthy than the Bennets. But it didn't matter because the Bennets were of the gentleman class.
Right. Yeah, and this is very important. We're focusing on this because the whole story revolves around the daughters trying to get married because Mr. Bennet has no heir. His estate, therefore, will be entailed. That's what it's called. It'll be entailed to the nearest male relation, which means when Mr. Bennet dies, their establishment at, what is it, Longbourn or Netherfield?
Yes.
Okay, Longbourn will be no longer theirs. If the mother is still living, she will be out. If the daughters are still living, they will be out and they'll have nothing. So they have to go get married. And by the way, for this reason, a lot of women and feminists have taken this novel to be some sort of proto-crypto feminist broadside literature. I would disagree with that. We can talk about that later. But there is a sense here, it's everywhere, that we have to get married so that we don't lose everything. And Mrs. Bennet talks about that all the time. The whole story is basically the girls, some of them, the younger ones, are silly. The 3 younger ones are silly. The 2 older ones are wise and prudent and virtuous. But they travel among a society of soldiers, this regiment that comes through, a bunch of handsome soldiers, and other people that are in the area who are eligible bachelors. Most notably, Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy. Mr. Bingley buys a house or some kind of estate in the area of these girls, and that's called Netherfield, right? He buys Netherfield.
I think he just rents it. He kind of comes and goes. Yeah.
He rents it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he set up his establishment there. I mean, he brought everything
he
there. So these guys have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bingley had £5,000 a year, and Mr. Darcy had £10,000 in a year. And I looked this up today. £10,000 a year. Mr. Darcy, this rich guy, basically that would be $1.6 or $1.7 million today, 2025. That's a lot of money a year. That's not all the money he had, though. That's just what he got a year. He also was in control of a huge estate that actually produced that money. So he controls more wealth than that, but that's what he gets per annum, which is basically 20 times more than the average laborer today. The average engineer today is making maybe, let's say, 100,000 or something, and Darcy's making almost 20 times that, 15 or 20 times that. So it's a lot of money that he's making, and he commands this status. So these guys come in, and the whole town is excited about them. The girls are excited, the mother's excited, and the story just kind of unfolds with them interacting with this family, with the other men, and how everything works out for these young ladies in their marriage prospects. That's basically how the direction of the story. Should we add anything to the story before we talk about particulars of different characters and different people?
No, I think getting into the characters and the particulars is the story.
Okay. Yeah, I want to say this too for the guys listening, for any young men who have to read this or adults thinking, should I read this? Why would you want to read a story about women trying to get married? Why have I read it 3 or 4 times? It's an extraordinarily well-written book. You can see when you read this book why this is one of the greats. So I mentioned before that there are great books, there are good books, and then there are just okay books. Of course, there's bad books too. I mean, within the classic catalog, though, if you open up the classical school catalog, you'll find a bunch of books in there. You'll find the Iliad, and you'll find Paddington Bear. Are both of those great books? No. Is Paddington Bear a bad book? No, it's not bad. It's a decent book. It's decent. I would say this is a great book. This one is a great book because, and you feel it when you read it. You pick it up, and the ease with which the narrative unfolds, the plot, the characters, the depth, the richness, the logic of the events, nothing contradicts. There's no plot holes that I can find. Everything's well written. People act in a way that is appropriate for the time and the era.
But at the same time, you know someone just like that person. You know, like
yes.
They're very close.
Yes, the depth and the richness of the characters is amazing. I know at least 3 women. I've known 3 women in my life that are exactly like Mrs. Bennet. I won't name them, but every time I see Mrs. Bennet talking, I think, I know exactly what that's like to be around a woman like that.
And we all know a Caroline Bingley.
A Caroline Bingley. So the characters are real people. It's actually real people.
But the story opens with the Bennets on their way to church, or coming home from church. And they've just received news that Mr. Bingley has taken Netherfield. He'll be there for a while. And Mrs. Bennet is very excited on behalf of her daughters. And Mr. Bennet is like, why? How does it affect them? You know, he's playing with her. And she's already plotting from the very beginning to try to have him marry one of her daughters. And at one point, of course, Mr. Bennet plays with her the whole time. He enjoys picking at her and getting a reaction from his wife. And so he acts like he's not going to call on Mr. Bingley, and she complains and all of those things. And she says, you take delight in vexing me. And she's being very dramatic. But the thing is, he does. Like, she's not wrong. He really, like, that was almost...
You have no concern for my poor nerves.
No, and he's like, no, they're my dear friends these past 20 years.
I have a great regard for your nerves, dear. They've been my good friends.
Constant companions or something like that. But, like, that is this strange sort of delight that he takes because he does not respect his wife. He does not. And so he has... It's like he's been reduced to this kind of distorted pleasure that he can find in life.
The book says that Mr. Bennet married her when they were both young, and he married her for beauty.
And vivacity.
And not for character or fittedness for her station that she would be entering into. It's very concerned, the book is very concerned with propriety of manners, of like an air about you and how you handle situations. She was completely boisterous and blustering and narcissistic, self-centered, opinionated, bold. And he just kind of stood back. The book says it was almost the removed air of a philosopher, just watching things and indifferently amused, even with his own family. And I think this was a fault of Mr. Bennet, that he was very much the absent father. Even though he was there as a gentleman, he had no job. He just read all day and amused himself with wine and books. And he didn't actually teach or lead his children.
I think, though, this is like what the Proverbs talk about. A contentious wife, a nagging wife. It's like a constant drip. And he had to go dwell in a corner.
Of the house. The estate.
That's what happened.
That's what he did. Okay, so Mrs. Bennet essentially is this loud, boisterous woman. She's the sort of woman, I'm sure you've met this woman before. She only and always gives her opinion on her feelings. Everything is about her, and it's always about her children. That's all she ever talks about, and she doesn't care that she's kind of offending everybody in the room by talking over people and hogging the conversation and being extremely emotional one way, now another way, every instant. Whenever anything happens in the story, she is the one most affected and most offended, or most happy. And if things turn differently, if she's most offended by this thing but it turns out well, she says, I knew it all along that it would turn out well. Whenever there's the men that come into town, for instance. When the men come into town, for instance, Bingley is rich and he's handsome, Darcy's rich. Mrs. Bennet starts to downplay all of the other women in town and say, oh, this other lady over here, it's a shame she weren't more handsome, but I won't speak of that. But oh, my Jane is the most handsomest. Everybody must admit. She's telling this to the other mothers in the town, and they all just sit staring at her like, you can't be this arrogant. But she is. And she's saying it extremely loudly at the ball, in the hearing of everybody, and it's embarrassing the entire Bennet family. This is her character the whole time. She's hollering at home about her nerves and her flutterings and her sickness, and the servants are all about her and she's like, get away from me, and even though they're bringing her cakes and food. I've known characters like this. This is a real person. It's not fake, even though it's ridiculous. It's not fake. Someone, basically, that when you go and talk to them, like if I haven't seen one of these women in like 5 or 10 years, or 2 years, whatever, you go and talk to them, the entire conversation will be about their children. Entirely engrossed in their children. and you will not get like not your life, your children's lives, her own husband, nothing else except her and her children, and what her children are doing, and how pretty they are, and how wealthy they are, and how much more successful they are than yours. But that's okay, because one day you might have the good fortune that we've had. These sorts of put downs. That's Mrs. Bennet, totally. And in so doing, ironically, she actually harms the prospects of some of her children, because later in the story, one of her daughters, actually two of her daughters, are admired by some of these wealthy guys, but those chances go away for a time in the story because the men observe, we don't want to be connected with your mother. We don't want to be embarrassed and bring shame upon our reputation by being associated and connected.
Yeah, the other thing about Mrs. Bennet is that she was the one who had the inferior connections, who was not necessarily of the gentleman class.
Right.
And so what Mr. Bennet did when he married her was really, it affected a whole class. Mm-hmm. Not just his own family. Yeah. He took her and she didn't have the breeding for it. Mm-hmm. And it affected all of them.
Yeah.
She wasn't prepared to be in that class.
It is something in this story that is emphasized. Your marriage is a family ordeal. One of the young girls, was it Lydia, who ran off with a charming sort of dandy guy, Mr. Wickham? She ran off with him, eloped, or was going to elope. And this would have been ruinous for the rest of the family. Nobody would have married the other girls, because to do so would have been to connect yourself with such silliness. So think of it, I know we don't like to think of this today, but an easy analogy is just look at how people treat animals, for instance. If the mother and father of this dog that you're buying were ill-bred, then the whole litter is this ill-bred litter. Now, we don't like to talk about humans like this, I get it, but long ago people did, and they called it breeding. This person's not of good breeding or high breeding, and by breeding they both meant nature and nurture. They meant both. So it wasn't just your birth, but it wasn't only nurture. It was both. And so they said, she's of good breeding or he's of good breeding. His manners show of what breeding he is. And she was of a low breeding in both senses. And it showed in her character. And it showed also in the three younger daughters. Well, at least two of them. Mary, one of the daughters, she wasn't foolish.
I think she just reacted from her mother. The youngest two just imitated her mother. Mm-hmm. But Mary reacted, but not in a sensible way. She just threw herself into books and trying to learn, but she wasn't able to apply it in real life. Yeah. Like she was just storing up wisdom in her head, but she didn't know how to talk to people.
Okay, so let's talk about the five daughters. There's Jane, Elizabeth, Lydia, Mary, Kitty, Lydia. Lydia is the youngest. Okay. Jane is the nicest girl ever, thinks the best of everybody, never imputes wrong, never says a cross word, and she's very beautiful. Elizabeth is prejudiced. She thinks that she is a study of character. She fancies herself to be an observer, a watcher, kind of headstrong, kind of stubborn, but not rebellious. Not rebellious. She loves her father.
She has a will.
She has a will. Yeah. Whenever someone tries to intimidate her, she says, her courage always rises to meet it. So she doesn't have this demure, humble, deferential character. She thinks that she can offer her opinion in front of Lady Catherine de Bourgh, and she won't be intimidated by Mr. Darcy, the man of most consequence she's ever met. So she has these shrewd observations. And I think when you read the book, you probably associate Jane Austen with Elizabeth most closely. I'm not sure if Jane Austen was trying to do that, but clearly Elizabeth is someone, if any, she could have written a book herself about studies of character. Mm. Then there's Mary, who actually is the bookworm, but she is completely uninterested in anything to do with social life. And she always offers these boring moralisms. Like, we have to apply the balm of sisterly affection to the bosom of kindred, or she says these things at dinner, and everybody's just like, shut up. This is not helpful at all in our distress. But she has these philosophical maxims and moralisms that really tire. And you could tell, though, if she were a man, she would have been a priest, perhaps, and preached to everybody all the time and been kicked out of town for doing it. You know, that's Mary. Kitty, can you explain Kitty? Because I'm not fully...
Well, Kitty up.
Kitty and Lydia are together.
They're basically the same, and they're treated as the same in the book. So Lydia is the driving force, and Kitty tags along.
Okay, that's right. And Lydia is the youngest. She's 15. Mm-hmm. I think Jane must be 22 or something. And
21, 22, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they're between 21 and 15. And Lydia and Kitty are completely the worst girls you could imagine, who are just stuck up, self-centered, looking for pleasure, giggling, laughing, flirting with every possible guy.
That's how I would describe them. I wouldn't say they were stuck up. They were, because they weren't like haughty. That would be Caroline.
They were haughty when she got married. She said, "You walk behind me, Jane, because I'm a married woman now." I
think that was just sisterly. Like she was not a haughty woman to other people.
She got married to Wickham. They eloped. Mm-hmm. They ran away, and they actually lived together before they got married, which is a scandal back then. Today, people slap you on the wrist for doing that, but it's immoral still. Back then, it was a scandal, and she never saw the evil of it. She thought it was funny. She thought it was funny because she would be married before her sisters.
Yeah, she was extremely self-centered. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. She considered no one else in her behavior, her actions, her decisions.
Absolutely no one else.
Right. But what I mean is to describe her as a haughty person, like Caroline Bingley was a haughty person.
Okay, yeah.
Lydia was a flirt. She was all about fun. She was self-centered. She was all of those things. Yeah. And she could lord it over her sisters. Mm-hmm. But she wasn't haughty in temperament.
She didn't have, you're right, she didn't have the station to be haughty.
Right.
She was low and mean in her soul.
She strikes me like she was the baby of the family. Mm-hmm. And so she always has this of like, me too, like I can do it too, just proving to others.
Yeah. So these girls, they go to balls, all of them. They dance with officers and gentlemen, but the two youngest ones take it too far. But the father allows them, though. He just lets them go, and it ends up being ruinous. Like we said later on in the novel, Lydia runs off with Mr. Wickham, this sly gentleman that wins the hearts of all the ladies, but he's actually a really bad guy. But nobody can see that on the surface.
What's interesting, though, is Lizzie at one point is interested in Mr. Wickham. Mm-hmm. But then another heiress comes into the picture, Mary King. Mm-hmm. And he follows her and her money to another town or something. Yeah. And he's trying to get himself engaged to her or something. And that wasn't enough to show really any of them. Yeah. His character. Right. Like Lizzie does not begin to doubt him because he told her straight lies about how Darcy had treated him. Yeah, yeah. And that was not enough for Lizzie to think, oh, maybe he's not a trustworthy source. Mm-hmm. It was not enough to stop Lydia. Of course, I don't think anything would have been enough to stop Lydia. Yeah, right. But go ahead.
It really is instructive in that people can perceive things wrongly. First impressions. Right. First impression of Mr. Wickham was he was handsome. He was dressed in regimentals. He could dance. He can flirt.
There was truth in all his looks.
There was truth in his looks. And Mr. Bennet later on said, he winks and smiles and makes love to us all. That's what he said. Because they actually, after they eloped and got married, almost ruined everything. Then they came back to the Bennet house. So Wickham steals this man's daughter, runs off, and then a marriage happens through fortuitous means, which we can talk about later. But then they come back to the man's house with his daughter, and he's just all affable and calm and carefree. And Mr. Bennet, who is easygoing by nature, accepts it. I wouldn't have accepted that guy back in my house. But you have to keep up appearances. Anyway, everybody was deceived by Mr. Wickham. Absolutely everybody, including Lizzie, who prided herself on being a study of character. Someone who perceived through appearances. And she completely did not at all with this guy. He was a snake. He was worse than that. He was a deceiver. He was treacherous to the people that had raised him, actually. So Wickham's story, basically, Mr. Darcy is one of the gentlemen in the area. He has 10,000 pounds a year, which means he's fabulously wealthy and he's somewhat powerful. And he's not just wealthy and powerful, he's of the upper class. He owns Pemberley, which is this massive estate with all of the workers and all of the produce on it. It's absolutely beautiful. His father had a gardener or a estate manager, Mr. Wickham the Elder, whose son was now his survivor, Mr. Wickham. Well, Mr. Darcy the Elder had so loved this man's son and so loved the man that he promised to take care of the son after the man died. And the man died, and Mr. Darcy had put things in the will such that the son would be taken care of. Well, the son ended up squandering his inheritance from his adopted father of sorts. So Mr. Wickham essentially abused and threw away his inheritance from Mr. Darcy, which was not even his by right, it was just generously given.
Right. The old Mr. Darcy said he intended Wickham for the church.
Yeah.
And Wickham, after his death, Wickham totally rejected that. And he instead asked for 3,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And that was given to him and by Mr. Darcy. And he was like, I hope that's the last I see of him.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Right.
He wasn't finished messing with the family yet. Darcy says he wanted to take revenge, in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it was revenge that almost didn't make sense to me at first. It's like, revenge for what? And I think it was just revenge for being Darcy, you know, for being privileged above him, for having the ability to give him a handout, you know?
Yeah. Well, Darcy gave him some funding, at 3,000 pounds, which is, today it's about $500,000, I think.
Wow.
That's about what that is. So he gave him $500,000 and said, good luck.
And he squandered it.
And he squandered it all, gambling and all kinds of things. Now he is actually in debt. And he appeals to Darcy again for more money. And that's when he began to resent Darcy, because Darcy said, no, I'm not giving you any more. And Wickham wrote to him and said, no, I'm going to go back into the church now. I've been studying law. It hasn't been working out. I'm going to go back into the church. I need some more money to get started. And Darcy said, no. And then Wickham's like, I'm being shoved out of my inheritance. I'm not being, and he started to slander Darcy to everybody. And that's why people think Darcy is this haughty, proud person, even though he kind of does it himself. He doesn't have the most affable manners in mixed company.
Well, Wickham also tried another avenue of getting at the money, which was Darcy's younger sister, Georgiana, who would inherit 30,000 pounds. I don't know how much that is.
Not like 5 million.
That's a lot of money. So that's what he was trying to do. He was going to elope with her. He convinced her, she was 15, and he convinced her to elope with him.
Yeah.
But before that happened, Darcy discovered them and she told everything. And that would have been Wickham's revenge on Darcy.
To marry into the family and then force his way into the inheritance.
Right. And I think, though, that's also what kept Darcy from talking about Wickham. Was because it involved his sister.
He's trying to save his sister. Right. Yeah. And his own actions could be construed as thrusting the man out of his inheritance. So he wanted to keep it quiet too. Even though that's not exactly what happened, that's what Wickham led on to everybody he can catch their ear.
Right. So it was really actually easy for Wickham to get everyone's sympathy and to paint his side of the story. Right.
So Mr. Darcy is received in these social circles that he comes into with, at first people think, oh, he's fabulously wealthy, but then he's not as affable and amicable as, let's say, Bingley is. He has a reserve about him. He has an aloofness. And people think, oh, you're proud, and that's the worst part. And it doesn't matter how wealthy you are, how good looking you are. If you're proud and you're beneath your own company, or if you're above your own company, then everybody's going to hate you. And this is one argument I would make against the feminist take on this book. It comes like from the egalitarian individualist take, where she's subtly critiquing all of the social structures of her day. I would say no, because within the realm of hierarchy, you can still critique improper hierarchy, but not be critiquing the thing itself, just the misuse of it.
Right, like Lizzie and Lady Catherine.
Yes.
That's why Lizzie did not think it was wrong to kind of show some will to Lady Catherine.
Yeah.
You know?
But everybody back then in the realm of aristocracy thought not that this thing needs to be destroyed and we all need to be individualist, egalitarians, levelers, liberals or something. They thought, no, we all need to preserve this. But the highest distinction that you can actually achieve is not only being high and lofty in your status, but then being unassumingly condescending and easygoing. The times when Darcy in the book is praised the most, the times when anybody of high station is praised the most, is when they're at ease in company and they're unassuming and they're easygoing and friendly and they are checking in on the status of your family or something like that, as though they're concerned with the petty matters of your small life. That's seen as magnanimous. So it's like when someone is of high status and they come down to you, it makes them even higher in your esteem. What Jane Austen is not doing is trying to overthrow aristocracy. And I would say the same thing for marriage. Again, we can talk about that later, but you can proof text a lot of things she says in this story as though she's criticizing marriage.
Right. If you looked at only Lady Catherine de Bourgh instead of looking at Darcy, you would think, oh, she wants to get rid of this aristocracy because look how awful it is.
Right.
But it's like a family member, Darcy, is the hero of the book.
Right.
So
yeah, that's good. There's criticism of improper use of authority and power.
Exactly. She does that with the clergy in many of her novels. She gives both good and bad examples. And people have taken that to say, oh, look, she was against this and that of the clergy. And it's like, no, she was against the evils that were.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the book, it says something about this.
It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife.
Okay, so that's the beginning quote of the book. It's actually a quote. It's on the first page before the story begins. And the feminist take is that Jane Austen's not being serious here, that she's being satirical or sarcastic or something about marriage, about how marriage was back then. That, oh, we all must marry, like the only purpose of a woman to survive in the world is to get married to a rich man so that she can continue to live. And how terrible of a hell is that situation? It's like that quote. And we need to free ourselves from this and break the chains of slavery. And it's like, she's not saying that in jest, as though it's a joke, but it's not.
I think she is saying it with a wink. Like, it is a funny thing. She's saying,
oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, it's like, a handsome young man, rich, shows up. It's like, well, we all know he needs a wife. That's how everyone saw it.
Yes, but my point, though, is, and that's right, she is kind of laughing about it. But it's true, and it's true for thousands of years. For instance, I was thinking about this when Abraham sent his servant to go get a wife for his son Isaac. He sent his servant, and his servant found Rebekah. The first thing he did, gave her a bunch of gold rings and stuff, and said, bring me to your father. And they brought him, and the servant showed up and showed all the wealth and said, my master told me to come and find a wife for him. He's wealthy beyond belief, and he has a son who's going to inherit everything. And the father and the brother are like, look to the girl. And this is the thing. Thousands of years ago, patriarchy, oh no. They don't tell the girl, go. They say, do you want to go? Right. She had a choice.
Right.
5 or 6 or 3 or 8,000 years ago, however long it was, in the Middle East, these goat-herding patriarchs, they gave the woman a choice. But the choice was, go marry this rich guy's son. So in other words, everybody for thousands, this wasn't like some white, Western, European, Christian, Victorian era invention of marriage or making women dependent upon a man or, oh, wealthy men get the girl. This has been thousands of years in the making. People have always looked on single wealthy men. Women have always looked at single wealthy men and thought, he's eligible.
He needs a wife.
He needs a wife. And the women of the area think that he is actually the property of some of them. Like, this is what she says. The women, whenever Bingley comes to town, the women almost claim by right. Like, I demand him. He has obligations that he doesn't even know about yet.
It's like what Miss Bennet says. What a fine thing for our girls.
Yes.
It's like, what?
Right. Right. How could this benefit? Mr. Bennett says, how could this benefit? And she's
How
like,
does it affect them?
oh, you're my nerves. You don't even know. So, yeah. But it's true, though. It's not like, this is not a feminist critique. This is the way the world is. And Jane Austen can laugh at it without being satirically bitter and trying to deconstruct it. I think feminists take this story or any light criticism of marriage from the past and try to turn it into something that it's not.
Well, think about the overarching story. 2 poor girls marry 2 rich guys, and everyone loves it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a famous story. So you can come to this book. Maybe feminists have, I don't know, I don't like psychoanalysis, but maybe feminists come to this book and like outwardly criticize it, but secretly they're like, I love this story.
Of course.
I will say this too. One of the things, I mentioned that this book is a great book, a great story. One of the ways that you know it's a great story, one of the features, Tolkien talked about this, is that you want to be there in the story. I told you this the other night. We watched the 5-part or 6-part BBC 1993 series of this.
For like the 11th time.
The 11th time, yes. And I think when I watch it, when I read the story, I think to myself, I would like to be in that world. I'd like to be there. That's how it's a good story. I feel this way about Tolkien's stories as well, his world, not just the stories, but the world. Like, I don't have to be in the story of this particular drama, but that world is a world I'd like to be in. Now, there's a famous thought experiment. I told you about this. I don't remember. Maybe the guy's name was Karl Popper. This is political philosophy, okay? So pardon me for just a quick second. There's this famous thought experiment in the 1900s in political philosophy. And the purpose of it was meant to show everybody from rational reflection that liberalism was the best form of government and not, for instance, aristocracy, let's say. And the way it works is this. Students across America who study political philosophy in the 1900s were always asked this question. What you need to do in your mind is create the perfect society in your mind, with the one caveat being you don't know where in it you would be placed. You're going to create this society, however you imagine it to be, knowing that you don't know where you're going to be placed in it. And the thought is, so I'm going to create a society, therefore, where I don't have the opportunity to be at the bottom. Because I might create one where, I want extreme monarchy. I'm going to be at the top. No, you don't know where you're going to be. Like, well, I don't want to be at the bottom, so I'm going to create one where everybody's equal. And I think the assumption that everybody would create an equalitarian society, I think it's actually assuming what it's trying to prove. Because I wouldn't. I would still create a hierarchical society, and people would say, well, you might be the gardener in that society. And I remember watching this movie, watching them walk on the grounds, and I'm thinking, I would love to be a gardener at Pemberley.
Yeah.
I would love to be the guy who just trained the horses at Pemberley.
Yeah, I remember one time watching it, and I saw the servant of the Bennets coming out with a laundry basket, and it was this beautiful woven basket, not this big, bulky, ugly plastic thing.
Yeah.
And it was lovely. And I was just thinking, and she's a servant. And
Yeah.
she's better off than I am.
Yeah. Those servants were taken care of.
Yeah.
They were very well taken care of. People have dreams about the past. Sometimes they're too nostalgic. But I also think that critics have views of the past that are also equally unrealistic. I would be fine. The Bible says that it's better to be a servant for one day in the courts of God than to be, I don't know, whatever else where I'm butchering it. I'm not going to.
A doorkeeper?
I don't know. I'm not going to put that one in. It's better to be, as the good book says,
than to dwell in the tents of wicked.
That sounds good.
I think that's how it goes.
Okay. But it's a story that I would like to be in. The world itself, I would like to be there. The way that the women dressed, the way that the men dressed, there's romance in the story, but it's not sexual and gross. It's not, and there's passion, but there's not obscenity. There's friendliness, but nothing is uncouth or gross. There's a lot less silliness in this world. People are sincere when they invite each other over, or when they say something. There's a depth.
I think that goes both ways, because there was so much propriety that they may not have been sincere when they invite that person over.
Ah, yes.
It could have been because, like Mrs. Bennet mentions, we dine with 24 families, and Miss Bingley and Mrs. Hurst laugh.
There's an insincerity in the formality.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's an insincerity. I think I probably would chafe under some of the formality because I'm just not used to it. I'm not used to giving deference to people and bowing and standing aside and yes ma'aming and yes sirring. I'm not used to it. I probably would have a problem with that.
Yeah, honestly, when I watch those movies, I always feel pity for the men. Because they play such a deferential part to the ladies.
Yeah, the whole time. It's
all through society.
It's the era of the highest point in chivalry in Western society. And by that, I mean that men defer to women in all of their faults, in all of their sins, in all of their social malfeasance or whatever. They never criticize them. They always defer to women. They're the most courteous. In fact, a man shows his high breeding by not returning a slight or an insult to a woman, but by turning it aside in a courteous manner. This is something you can see in Sir Gawain in the Green Knight. When he's tempted by that woman, he turns her words aside courteously, always trying to make it seem as though she's not insinuating what she really is, while also never rebuking her for doing what she's doing.
Yeah.
And you can see it over 1,000 years later with Mr. Darcy being insulted by Lizzie when he proposes to her, completely, utterly insulted, and he just says, "Forgive me, madam, for taking up so much of your time," and he leaves. It's very decorous and never a rebuke to Mrs. Bingley, Miss Bingley,
yeah,
Mrs.
people ignore these obvious things that should be dealt with.
Yes.
And I think that's part of why Mr. Bennet was a negligent father, it was because of some of these same things. He did not rein in his wife.
Yeah.
And therefore, it was like he had no authority to rein in his children either.
Right.
They didn't do that on principle.
Right. Right. Yeah, they were all daughters. Yeah. You don't rebuke women.
Yeah, and all throughout Austen's books, there are young men who are stifled because they are in the claws of this old lady who just won't die.
Yeah.
It's an old lady, and he has to flatter her and simper and make her keep her happy in order to get what he wants.
The most obvious character here that is flattering to an old woman is Mr. Collins, who's the cousin of all the girls at Longbourn, the Bennets. He is the one who's going to inherit the estate when Mr. Bennet dies. Mr. Collins, the book says he's handsome, but his manners are so ostentatious and formal and obsequious and also self-aggrandizing. He tries to center himself through his servility.
Yeah, I wish in the movie that he had been cast as a more attractive person, because I think it would have emphasized more what Jane Austen was trying to emphasize. And that was, it was his character that was rendered disgusting. It wasn't his person.
Right.
It's he and his behavior, the way that he acted toward everyone, but particularly Lady Catherine. That's what made him so repulsive. So
basically, Mr. Collins becomes a priest, and he's appointed to a certain church in the parish of Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Lady Catherine de Bourgh is of great wealth, power, and station, and she is intimately concerned with all of the details of everybody's life, and she gives her opinion decidedly on everything. If you come into her presence, or if you're invited into her presence, she will ask you so many questions and instruct you minutely in everything that you're doing.
It would be called impertinence in anyone else.
Yes. Yeah. She'll ask you how how your garden is getting on and tell you how to improve your garden.
Or how old a young woman is when she's not married yet and doesn't want to answer the question.
Yes.
She demands it of her.
Everything. Well, Mr. Collins is extremely deferential to her and praises her over and over and over. I can't do it justice. The book makes it so ridiculous. He's servile to her because he owes her his appointment. Or his preferment is what it's called. She preferred him, and now he is where he's at. And he has to go over there every day and pay her respects and flatter her, and she likes to be flattered. It's quite sad to see the situation of Mr. Collins, but it's also Mr. Darcy. He's a powerful man in himself, and he ends up doing what he wants in the end. But he is somewhat under the influence of this woman too. But everywhere you go, though, there are women giving their opinion boldly, strongly, and openly. And all of the men, young men and old men, just kind of stand by and look the other way out of chivalrous decorum.
Yeah, like Caroline Bingley should have been slapped a few times.
Yeah.
But no one takes the time to reprimand her or tell her to even to be quiet or anything.
Yeah, basically Caroline Bingley is Mr. Bingley's sister, who comes around with Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley wherever they go. And Miss Bingley likes Darcy, and she wants to get his attention, and she tries and tries and tries all the time. This is the other thing. I've known girls like this.
Oh, yeah.
I've personally known girls like this that were jealous that I or somebody else did not give them attention. And this is what they do. So you, the listener, you have known someone like this. Basically, here's the situation. In life, let's say that I am in a social circle of friends, and there's a girl that I like, and she has a friend. Now, the girl that I like may or may not like me back, but her friend does like me. And she's upset that I like her friend and not her. And her way of trying to get my attention is to insult her friend or insult every other woman in the room to me, and do it in a complaintive, provocative way. Like, let's say I like a girl named Jane, and this other girl will say to me, "Isn't Jane so ugly when she wears that dress? Don't you think so?" And I have to then give my opinion. And if I say yes, or, I'm just conceding to her, and she's like, "Oh, really?" But if I say no, well, pray tell, what is your opinion about her? And then you have to declare, she's trying to get you to declare yourself prematurely for this other woman and embarrass yourself in front of the crowd. I've seen this, and then they begin to complain over and over and over publicly. All guys cannot be trusted or something. They're just complaining, and you have to console her. But she's whiny. That's Miss Bingley. Miss Bingley likes Darcy. Darcy is very reserved, keeps his cards close to his chest, but Miss Bingley watches him, and she can tell that Miss Bennet, Elizabeth, catches Darcy's attention sometimes. And so she starts to poke at it. Like, for instance, they're at somebody's house, I think it was Bingley's, one evening. They're all sitting around, and she is trying to provoke Darcy, but she can't. She can't get a rise out of him. She's trying to watch what he's reading. But the book says, too, that Darcy's reading a book, and then Miss Bingley picked up the second volume of the same book, and that she couldn't read it. And so she kind of yawned and said, but then she said, "Oh, how I love reading books. They're so great." Mr. Darcy didn't look her way, so she yawned again and put the book down. And then she got up, and she tried to walk around to present herself, but Darcy wouldn't look up. So finally, her last attempt, the book said, was to get Lizzie. And she said, "Miss Elizabeth, would you care to take a turn about the room with me? It's refreshing, And so they get up and walk around. And the book says that this achieved her object. Darcy unconsciously closed his book and looked up, and Miss Bingley was like, "Victory." I got him to look my way by getting the girl that he actually likes. This is how desperate and treacherous and just manipulative this sort of person is. And I'm telling you, I have met this woman. I've met this woman personally. I've had friends who have had this sort of thing happen to them. What can you do though? Because this person she won't be stopped by social decorum. Breaching things socially doesn't stop her. She's not ashamed to offend people like Mrs. Bennet or Mrs. Lady Catherine de Bourgh. But Miss Bingley will also do these things, and the cultural pressure, the social pressure of etiquette and mores won't stop her.
What's funny about her, though, is her behavior, that very behavior that you've been describing, is part of what makes Elizabeth so appealing to Darcy.
Yes. I told you this earlier, I think. I can tell you this is 1,000% true. So I have a problem with the book. I've told you this before. My problem is I don't see why Darcy likes Lizzie. Okay, we'll come back to your point because I think there's an answer for why he likes her. So listener, forgive me for criticizing Pride and Prejudice. I'm sorry, but I have a problem with it. The problem is, okay, Darcy is this super rich billionaire. It kind of follows a pattern. This unassuming poor girl somehow smashes this billionaire's heart.
Beautiful mid. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's a beautiful mid, unassuming, unaware of herself in the world, and this impossible, perfect billionaire falls madly in love with her. That is every single rom-com plot, okay? First criticism, I know that's not exactly how this book goes, though. Okay, I know. When you step back 10,000 feet, though, that's what it looks like from 10,000 feet away. When you get up close, you realize it's more nuanced than that. It's more intricate. It's way better done. Like, this is not some fantasy novel. It is not, I know. However, there is something there, which is, why does Darcy fall in love with her then? No, really, like, why? At the beginning, remember, if you read the story already, you'll remember this, but if you haven't, they go to a ball. All of the Bennet girls are there, lots of girls there. Mr. Darcy's there, Mr. Bingley's there. Mr. Bingley is dancing with Jane the whole night. He falls in love with her, like, instantly. He's just like, isn't she the fairest creature you've ever seen? He's loving her. And then Darcy is not dancing at all. And Bingley says, come, Darcy, I hate to see you standing in this ridiculous manner. I won't have you, I'll have you dance. And he says, insupportable. I can't dance with there's no woman handsome enough in this room to tempt me.
Mm-hmm.
And Bingley says, look there's Jane's sister. And he said, she's not handsome enough to tempt me or something like that. She
is tolerable, I suppose.
She's tolerable.
But not handsome enough to tempt me.
Yeah, she's tolerable. I love those.
That means she's mid, though.
I love those neoclassical insults, though.
Yeah.
Like, if you read the presidents of the United States, the first, five insult each other in their political campaigns, it's like...
They got creative. Classical
insults are so... Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Like, I can't believe you could actually cut someone down like this. Anyway, she's tolerable. She's tolerable. Okay, so Darcy goes from thinking she's tolerable to being madly in love with her by the end of the book. Literally, no reason is given other than she has fine eyes. That's it. That's it. I don't believe it. So this is a plot hole, a gap in Jane Austen's book here. Okay? Now, I think there's a reason. I think there's an explanation. I know you have one too. I want to hear it though in a second. But look, let me just put the problem in front of people, okay? In the book, he does not like her. He won't even dance with her. He won't even talk to her. Then Jane comes over to Bingley's one day and she gets sick because her mom made her ride a horse in the rain. Her mom purposefully told her to go ride a horse to Bingley's because she was invited to come. But to not ride in a carriage, but to go ride a horse, because then she'll get wet in the rain, then she'll get sick and she'll have to stay there for like 3 weeks. That's the mother's thinking. Deceptive and cunning. Well, after a few days that she's sick, Elizabeth decides to walk 3 miles after the rain. 3 miles in the mud. So she walks 3 miles in the mud, which is unbecoming of a lady to demean herself like this. It's gross and disgusting. She gets there and all the sisters, Miss Bingley, it's like, oh my word, look at this savage creature. But Mr. Darcy sees the flush of exercise on her face. And then as Miss Elizabeth walks out of the room, Miss Bingley begins to upbraid her. Ridiculous. And then Mr. Darcy says, I was admiring a fine pair of eyes. Her eyes. That's the only lead we have that Darcy suddenly starts to just love her in the story, other than stuff that you have to infer in the story. But I do think you can infer things in the story for why he actually loved her. And this gets back to your point. So again, as the story progresses, he begins to show more and more, like he starts fidgeting around her. He can't talk to her. He tries to go and propose, but then he flees out of the room, and he tries to come back and he's silent, and the movie does this really well. The BBC movie, the actor did like you can see the look. If you've ever proposed to a woman before, if you guys are single, you don't know, but if you have, watch that scene where he's trying to propose to her. That is exactly what it's like. Here's this man, 10,000 pounds consequence. He's the owner of Pemberley, this big, huge estate. He's in charge. He can do things. He's a man. And he comes into this room with this poor girl, and he's like, he can't master himself. It's so true. Absolutely true. How did he get there, though? This is my thing. How did he get there? Jane Austen doesn't tell you. You have to figure it out, in my opinion. You have to just find clues in the story. Like, here's a clue.
Like when Bingley is talking to him and he rejects Lizzie as being only tolerable, and she overhears this and she walks by him with mirth, and that gets his attention. And then a few times things like that happen where he sees her strength, honestly. He sees her strength of character.
He does.
And that she has thick skin, and she is not scared of him in that way.
But the thing is, everything you're saying is true, and I think it too. But my criticism is that you as the reader have to put this puzzle together on your own without a picture. Like nobody's telling you, oh, she actually won his affections by this. You don't get that. She's tolerable, but she's not handsome to him.
Well, eventually she becomes the handsomest woman.
Suddenly, at the end, she's the handsomest woman ever. And this is like, is this a rom-com? Come on, how does this happen? Well, the way I think it happens, and you were alluding to this, is it's her character that does it. But again, you as the reader have to just infer this.
Okay, at the end of the book, this actually validates both of us here, okay? Because Elizabeth wants to know the same thing. She wants to know why he fell in love with her. Mm-hmm. Because maybe she's also like, wait, why? Yeah. And she does. It says, she wanted Mr. Darcy to account for his having ever fallen in love with her. Mm-hmm. How could you begin? Said she. I can comprehend your going on charmingly when you had once made a beginning, but what could set you off in the first place? He says, I cannot fix on the hour or the spot or the look or the words which laid the foundation. It is too long ago. I was in the middle before I knew that I had begun. Mm-hmm. She says, my beauty you had early withstood. And eventually she says, so did you admire me for my impertinence? He says, for the liveliness of your mind, yes, I did.
Yes.
And then here she answers her own question. Mm-hmm. She says, you may as well call it impertinence at once. It was very little less. The fact is, you were sick of civility, of deference, of officious attention.
Yes.
You were disgusted with the women who were always speaking and looking and thinking for your approbation alone.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I roused and interested you because I was so unlike them. Had you not been really amiable, you would have hated me for it. But in spite of the pains you took to disguise yourself, your feelings were always noble and just, and in your heart you thoroughly despised the persons who so assiduously courted you.
Yeah, that's absolutely accurate. I mean, of course, it's because Jane Austen is writing this to satisfy the reader. So it does satisfy both of our arguments.
Right.
There is a reason. However, as I was saying, there's no stated reason throughout the whole book. Mm-hmm. You have to figure that out.
Yeah.
Basically, the way of putting this today is that the world that existed back then, at least the aristocratic world, was largely governed by matriarchs and women. It was largely a longhouse of sorts. And everywhere Darcy went, he had to deal with women who were nagging him, patronizing him, following him, asking him for things, pushing him around like his aunt, Lady Catherine de Bourgh. And he met Elizabeth, and he saw someone whose mind was strong. She had courage. She had inner nobility. Even when people were insulting her or putting her down, she stood still. Like, her family was ridiculous. And
Right.
Darcy even wrote this in the letter to her after he proposed. In that letter, he said, "Your family is ridiculous, and I couldn't marry into it without destroying my own family. However, you and your sister maintain yourself nobly, which shows even more to your characters." So he admires her for her ability to compose herself, to think independently, but not like the feminist or something. But she's strong and courageous, and she will never nag him. She'll never be part of the clique of women. You know that song, I've told you this before, this is a bad example, but that Spice Girls song, "If you want to be my lover, you got to get with my friends."
Yeah.
I remember hearing that. It's like in the 90s or something, early 2000s. I remember hearing that thinking, I hate that idea. Like, I'm not joining your clique. I'm not joining your family. You're joining mine. I'm starting a new family. I don't want to steal a woman from her friends or family. That's not what I'm saying either. But like, a man, at least a self-respecting man, any man worth his weight in salt. Now, what is the phrase?
Worth his salt or worth his weight in gold?
Worth his salt and
It's
gold.
okay, I like your combination.
Worth his salt and weight. Any man salty enough to be weighed. He's golden.
All right, yes?
Any self-respecting man will think the same thing. I don't want to join a clique of women. I don't want to become her foo-foo dog pet thing, her accessory. I don't want that. And you know, women today demand the same thing. Like, they don't want to be a man's accessory. Why would we think men would want to do that too? Why would a woman want a man like that?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Darcy didn't want to marry a woman where he would enter into a society of gossipy, cliquey, matriarchal, complaintive women. He didn't want that. In fact, I'll prove it. One time before he proposed, he went and met Elizabeth in the same room that he proposed to her in. So it was like the very same next day or something, the day before. He began to talk to her about Charlotte Lucas and how she had married Mr. Collins, and Mr. Collins had brought her pretty far away from home. And Darcy said, "Oh, it's not that far." And Elizabeth said, "It's 50 miles. I call that far." And he said, "No, if you have good roads, it's not that far." And she began to talk about how, you know, living near to family is good. And he said, "Well, you wouldn't mind being far from family, would you?"
Actually, I like the way that he says it, because it shows that he has assumed this about her.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "You would not want to be settled near Longbourn, I think."
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I know what you're saying here.
Yeah. And then when he inquired about that, it was a little bit too much.
Yeah.
He's revealing himself. And then she looked at him thinking, what are you asking?
Right.
And
right.
he stopped and walked out of the room at that point. Yeah. But the point is, he was already thinking, get her away from her mother and her ridiculous sisters.
Yeah.
Pull her away, come to Pemberley, live at our estate, and be mistress of all of this house.
Right. And I always think of that as opposed to Bingley. I'm sure that Bingley was fine living in walking distance from Longbourn.
Yeah.
You know, he and Jane, like, they would be the ones to take care of Mrs. Bennet when Mr. Bennet dies, you know, not Darcy.
Not Darcy. Yeah. So to wrap up this idea, I criticize the book because it's hard to believe that Darcy actually falls in love with Lizzie when you're reading the book, until you read it maybe a second or third time and you think, oh, that's how he could possibly fall in love with her. It was the fact that she was undaunted by all of the finery and etiquette and social status stuff that goes on. The mores, the propriety, the procedures of it all. She was undaunted. She didn't crush it and demolish it either. She wasn't a leveler, but she was also someone who could sit at ease with Lady Catherine de Bourgh, whereas Mr. Collins was scraping and crawling and begging.
I think it just comes down to the fact that she was principled.
She was principled, but she had the courage to follow her principles too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Propriety and rank and all of these things did not override principles.
Right. I am satisfied though with that explanation because it makes sense to me because I've experienced it and I've seen other people experience it. I've seen guys walk down the opposite road and I've thought, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to go in that direction. I want to be my own man.
Yeah.
I want to be free of this. I don't want to be beholden to a society of others. It's believable that he loved her for that. Because when a man sees in a woman that she will actually be his helpmeet, really, in giving him a peaceful life, in giving him companionship. Darcy doesn't need a helpmeet, by the way. His ends are met already everywhere. He's got so many servants. There's literally nothing a woman can add to him other than heirs and joy and companionship, which is not nothing. That's a lot. But I'm just saying, he doesn't need somebody to wash the dishes and homeschool his kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like today is what like the woman is for, supposedly, in the reformed world, you know? But he's got all that. He needs someone who's going to make his life at ease and peaceful and enjoyable, a companionable woman on par with him in every way. And I like the soul, the spirit, the mind, the attitude, the character, the principles.
Yeah. And
they were the same. And he began to love that. And you start to see, and this is something that happens in the book too, after she had already rejected him, he shows back up with his sister to introduce them. And Bingley shows up and they're all sitting and talking. And the book says that Lizzie was trying really hard to be agreeable and to show her best side. And each one of them, Darcy, Miss Darcy, and Bingley, were all trying, each in their own ways, to see her in her best light, including Mr. Darcy. He's trying, he loves her. Now he's trying to find her pretty. Now he's trying to find her manners agreeable. Of course, she was already pretty, but it's just, you're trying to see her from her best light. When you see the person you love in a bad light, you think, oh, that's their bad light. Maybe, I'll just forget that. Of course, if you're trying to hate somebody, even a good light is like, well, it's just the lighting. It's not really they're really ugly on the inside. It's just this accident that they showed up and they were good this time, but they're really bad. So Darcy was trying because of these reasons, I think. It's believable to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Lizzie falls in love with Darcy, and she says this because Jane asks, when did you start to fall in love with Darcy? And Lizzie said, it was around the time that she went to Pemberley. I think this is super important. Okay, do you agree? Do you not agree?
What are you going to say?
Well, the man was wealthy, and everybody knew that, and that recommended him immediately to everybody's good graces. But then his character was haughty, and immediately everybody disliked him. And Lizzie learned how he supposedly had dealt treacherously with Wickham, which was actually false. And once she learned that it was false, she realized that her perception of others' characters was probably faulty and she shouldn't trust it. So now she doesn't know what to think of Darcy. She just knows that she's probably really embarrassed and she already turned him down an offer of marriage. But then they go on a tour, and as part of a tour back then, you can go visit people's houses, like great houses. You can still kind of do that today in some places. People can go tour a house that's a really great landmark house. You could do that with Mr. Darcy's house. So Lizzie is on a journey with her aunt and uncle, and they just happen to be in the neighborhood of Pemberley, and they go and visit it, thinking that Mr. Darcy wasn't there. Well, as they ride down the lane, it describes the lane and the woods and the hills and everything and how pleasant and beautiful it was. The pleasantness of the grounds, the landscape, the meticulous care. The book even says something like, nature had blessed it wonderfully, but the caring and landscaping of it did not mar what nature had done with ostentation or with ill design. It had perfectly adorned it. And all of that estate began to wash over her. Like, it wasn't just Darcy now that like his character was being judged in isolation. His wealth was judged, and it's now, look at what Darcy oversees. because it's the oversight of the Lord that makes the servants care and attention and skill and that produces a beautiful land like this. So she begins to see what kind of man he is in the work of his hands, so to speak. And that begins to sort of come upon her in this realization of how great this man is, how amazing his character comes out in his work, in his workmanship, his overlordship. And then she sees Pemberley itself as they rise upon some hill, and there's a valley, and then on the other side of a hill, with the background of some rising woods, there's Pemberley. It hits her and she's speechless, and she thinks, of all this I might have been mistress. And she says it a few times. When she goes in the house and looks out the window and sees the prospect, she thinks again, of all this I might have been mistress. It starts to hit her. I'm not saying Lizzie was vain and driven by money. What I am saying is money turned into greatness in front of you. Darcy did something with it that was great, beautiful, elegant, lovely, amazing, powerful. And then Lizzie starts to see all of the servants, or some of the servants. They saw the housemaid and the gardener, gave him a tour. Both of them spoke highly of Darcy, praise him to the high heavens. And Elizabeth starts to think, his servants love him.
There's a sense in which his estate is a display of his character.
Yes, that's what I've been trying to say through so many words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she sees it, and it's good, and it's beautiful.
Yes. So here's my conclusion, right? Guys try to impress girls. The typical way used to be you go on a date. Now it's just texting. It's isolated. She can't see you in your fullness. I remember hearing this about how to find a woman. You don't want to just see her on a date or at college, isolated among her friends. See her around people of different ages and see how she reacts to annoyances, like a complaintive mother or a whiny aunt or nagging nieces and nephews all around. Like see who she is in a varied light. And you'll find out who she really is. You'll find out how beautiful or ugly she is, really. Do the same thing with the man. The man, Darcy at a ball, is one thing. The man, Darcy, at his estate, he wasn't even there, but she's seeing who he is by his estate.
Right.
And it's overpowering to her. She begins to love him in that moment. And it's not because she saw how wealthy he was. Oh, I'm going to have BMWs and horses and trips to the Bahamas. That wasn't it. It was, this is a man of great taste and care and generosity. That's the other thing. He was extremely generous to the poor and to his servants. They all loved him to death. They're the best master I ever had. And I've known him since he was 4. The maid said, that is high praise from someone who's known him all his life. There's paintings of him, and she admired the painting. She's just staring up at this huge painting in this massive room. And she's starting to love him more and more. So, men, what you need to do is make a ton of money, build an amazing house, and then show her the house.
Okay.
Okay, no, hold on, look.
Okay.
I'm
not going to deny any of what you just said at all. But it was a layup, okay? That was only part of the equation. Had Darcy had all of those things and nothing about his character was different,
of course,
then she still would have not fallen in love with him.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and she jokes about that with her sister, because her sister's asking her, like, when did you fall in love? And she says, oh, I believe I must date it from my first seeing his beautiful grounds at Pemberley. And her sister's like, do be serious. But it was the other half of the time at Pemberley.
Yes.
She meets him.
His attitude had changed.
Right. And I think this is what makes this book, why people love this book, is because of the change.
Yes.
That happens.
Yes.
And Darcy gives Lizzie the credit for all of that. And I think it was her rejection of him, that very rejection that did it. It humbled him to such a degree that his pride was shattered. A woman who was far beneath him rejected him. And as not good enough.
Yeah, she said, if you had behaved in a more gentlemanly manner.
Right. She was so far below his station, and yet she could see his flaws and say, you're not worthy.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, a mirror for him. Like he had never seen himself that way.
Right. This again goes to my criticism of the feminist take on this book, that it's some kind of feminist screed. It's not, because it favors aristocracy when it's done right.
Exactly.
It's a criticism of poor aristocracy, not aristocracy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a criticism of forced marriages, not marriage. It's a criticism of women marrying out of desperation, like practical alliances, and not out of alliances that are true. Mm-hmm. It's not a criticism of a man and woman joining in holy matrimony. It's not a criticism of that social situation. Sorry to break away from that. I have to criticize that when I can. But yes, Darcy, that's the most beautiful part, I think, of the book, is the turn. The whole story, the plot. You know how in a book, every book has a plot, and there's like 3 plot points, here, here, and here. But this one, the turning point, it's like this dramatic shift. It's really masterful. It is. Mm-hmm. It's a dramatic shift. Darcy proposes. Lizzie rejects it. Darcy writes a letter to her explaining her criticisms of his character, especially with Mr. Wickham, because it was thought that Darcy had mistreated him. He explains himself in such a way that his entire character is reversed, and he's actually probably one of the best men ever, like the perfect man. This is like my other criticism of the book.
Not quite, because she still has the beef with Jane and Bingley that Darcy got in the middle of.
She does.
He's not quite clear.
But Jane Austen essentially paints the perfect man billionaire, irresistible. Anyway, other than that, she then begins to doubt herself and her perception of him, and then she sees his estate and begins to fall in love with him, and then he shows up accidentally and treats her in such a manner. This is where chivalry comes in, amazingly.
For the win.
For the win. She insulted him and rejected his offer. And this is a man far above her, and she rejected it and insulted him. And the next time they see each other is accidentally at Pemberley. He shows up early, a day early, and there she is, and she's embarrassed and he's embarrassed, but he completely is courteous to her, way more so than ever before, and he asks to be introduced to her friends, her aunt and uncle, who are way
in a class below him.
He offers to let her uncle come fishing in his ponds. He invites them over for dinner, wants to introduce her to his sister, and he's all genteel manners. So in other words, it's aristocracy done right suddenly. Mm-hmm. It's not the abolition of aristocracy.
Right.
It's not the abolition of marriage. Suddenly, it's done well. How wonderful he is. The aunt even is like, this can't be the Darcy that I've heard of. This in no way reflects the rumor about him. Suddenly, he is the kindest, most gentlest, condescending, easygoing, friendly guy, full of generosity. It really is a great reversal. And from then, you begin to feel the tension boil because, okay, now I want resolution. I want, like, that resolution is, oh, he proposes. Oh, it's rejected. Oh, man, that's terrible. Oh, no, they meet again. Oh, but he's really nice to her. And it's confusing. He's not angry. He's not, like, a man who was rejected by a woman would never want to see her again, perhaps, especially rejected so strongly. But he is trying to invite her over now. And I like this part of Darcy. I like it so much because it's almost like he's assuming the sale. Like they say in the dating world today.
Oh, that's good.
He's assuming, he sees her and he just kind of smiles.
He's like, yeah, you're here at Pemberley.
Yeah.
Now you want me.
Right. Yeah. He doesn't give off exactly that air, but he is completely at his ease and comfortable and she's just confused. You can tell. You can see almost like Cupid's arrows have wounded her. And she's kind of like, I don't know what to do. I don't know why I can't sleep. What am I feeling? And she doesn't know herself. And he is just smiling and confident at this point. And he's just like
reeling
come
her
on
in.
home.
Yep,
come on home. Come on home. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful how it works out.
That's the setup at Pemberley. But then when they leave Pemberley, Elizabeth gets a letter from Jane about Lydia. And so Lydia has run off with Wickham. And that is potentially going to ruin everything. It's like she never wanted Darcy. And then now, right when she's beginning to want him, her sister goes and ruins everything, and she thinks, I'll never see him again. But of course, Darcy had enough love and respect for Lizzie, and he had realized that Wickham's behavior was partly his responsibility, that he goes and he handles the whole problem, and he does it for her. He does it for Lizzie. And Lizzie sees his behavior at the hotel when she has to tell him all of these things, and she thinks, he's gone forever. I can see he's upset. Yeah. He doesn't want to be around me. He doesn't want anything. But he was already planning in his mind, oh, I now have a lot of work in front of me. I've got to handle this.
Yeah.
You know, so he was making plans in his head because he wasn't going to let her go. Like she came back to him and he's like, I'm not going to let go.
That's a great part of the story. If I were some sappy evangelical preacher, I would say that there's a gospel message here about redemption and how God comes and he won't let you go and all this stuff. It's really good. It's romantic. It's really romantic, but not in the flirty island getaway rom-com sense. It's romantic in that he sees that Lydia's rebellion ruins the family's prospects. It ruins the family's name. And he couldn't marry her now. Not only is she beneath him naturally in station, and her mother and father are already ridiculous, but now her sister has ruined herself. The whole family's ruined. And he thinks, no, I'm going to save this. Of course, he has to clear it because he feels responsible for Wickham. But he tells Lizzie, I did it for your sake.
He had an ulterior motive. Yeah.
He said it.
He was the only one who could save it.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, it cost a lot of money to fix Darcy's or to fix Wickham's debts and to pay the dowry for Lydia and so on.
And also to force the marriage to happen.
And to force it.
Wickham never intended to marry Lydia. Right. And that was the damning part of her, of the whole affair.
Right.
Was for her not to have been married, to run away and not be married. And so he had to force the marriage in order to then be able to marry Lizzie.
Yeah. So he did all that and then told no one except the people that were there. And then one of those persons told Lizzie what happened because Lizzie somehow caught wind of it.
Lydia let it slip.
So Lizzie found out, and then somehow they eventually communicated that to Darcy that she knew. And he admitted, it was for your sake. And that's toward the end of the story when they were walking.
Yeah, she thanks him. Yeah.
Yeah. She felt herself, at this point in the story, she has read his letter explaining himself. She has seen Pemberley. She has seen his changed attitude to her and her relations that shows proper, beautiful aristocracy, like magnanimous, condescending aristocracy, which is beautiful and wonderful in Darcy, this guy who condescends to be our friend and to show affection to me. That's wonderful. Now she's seen him do this great deed of humanity to save a family's reputation, to save people for no reason, really. I mean, he didn't have to do any of this, and not to take the credit for it publicly. Right. At great cost to himself, by the way, this financial cost to himself. And she starts to feel, she says in the book, respect for him, awe, and gratefulness to him. Like she's in his debt now. She feels this man is grown in greatness before me. And I think, I don't know, I'm trying to like psychoanalyze women now, and I think that one of the things that a woman ought to have in her love for a man is respect. If a woman doesn't respect a man, like men don't have to respect a woman necessarily to love her. Respect is something that like you're looking up to this woman. We don't want to disrespect a woman either. But
we could put this at the end, but I wanted to read a part because it's not in the movie, but it's right here about what we're talking about. So we could end it with a reading instead.
Okay.
This is a scene from the book after Darcy and Elizabeth have professed their love for one another, but no one else knows it yet. So the parents don't know yet, and Bingley and Darcy come back to visit Longbourn. "Good gracious," cried Mrs. Bennet, as she stood at a window the next morning. "If that disagreeable Mr. Darcy is not coming here again with our dear Bingley. What can he mean by being so tiresome as to be always coming here? I had no notion but he would go a-shooting or something or other and not disturb us with his company. What shall we do with him? Lizzie, you must walk out with him again. that he may not be in Bingley's way. So Bingley and Jane are engaged now, and Mrs. Bennet sees Mr. Darcy as just a nuisance. She has no idea why he keeps coming. Elizabeth could hardly help laughing at so convenient a proposal, yet was really vexed that her mother should be always giving him such an epithet. As soon as they entered, Bingley looked at her so expressively and shook hands with such warmth as left no doubt of his good information. And he soon afterwards said aloud, "Mr. Bennet, have you no more lanes hereabouts in which Lizzie may lose her way again today?" "I advised Mr. Darcy and Lizzie and Kitty," said Mrs. Bennet, "to walk to Oakham Mount this morning. It is a nice long walk, and Mr. Darcy has never seen the view." "It may do very well for the others," replied Mr. Bingley, "but I am sure it will be too much for Kitty. Won't it, Kitty?" Kitty owned that she had rather stay at home. Darcy professed a great curiosity to see the view from the Mount, and Elizabeth silently consented. As she went upstairs to get ready, Mrs. Bennet followed her, saying, "I am quite sorry, Lizzie, that you should be forced to have that disagreeable man all to yourself, but I hope you will not mind it. It is all for Jane's sake, you know, and there's no occasion for talking to him, except just now and then, so do not put yourself to inconvenience." During their walk, it was resolved that Mr. Bennet's consent should be asked in the course of the evening. Elizabeth reserved to herself the application for her mother's. She could not determine how her mother would take it, sometimes doubting whether all his wealth and grandeur would be enough to overcome her abhorrence of the man. But whether she were violently set against the match or violently delighted with it, it was certain that her manner would be equally ill adapted to do credit to her sense, and she could no more bear that Mr. Darcy should hear the first raptures of her joy than the first vehemence of her disapprobation. In the evening, soon after Mr. Bennet withdrew to the library, she saw Mr. Darcy rise also and follow him, and her agitation on seeing it was extreme. She did not fear her father's opposition, but he was going to be made unhappy, and that it should be through her means that she, his favorite child, should be distressing him by her choice, should be filling him with fears and regrets and disposing of her, was a wretched reflection, and she sat in misery till Mr. Darcy appeared again, when, looking at him, she was a little relieved by his smile. In a few minutes, he approached the table where she was sitting with Kitty, and while pretending to admire her work, said in a whisper, "Go to your father. He wants you in the library." She was gone directly.
Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this content, please consider supporting the show by subscribing at arslibri.substack.com. Your support enables me to produce this content. Subscribers also get bonus episodes, detailed book lists, and more.